Good afternoon and welcome to Bold Radio. I'm your host, John McLeese. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Last week, 80 university and college students loaded up in 2 buses for the second annual Start-Up Crawl. For one full day, they drove around Winnipeg, making stops at innovative and entrepreneur-friendly places in an area dubbed Innovation Alley in downtown Winnipeg. Over the course of the day, these students heard from about 20 different speakers, both on and off the bus, with the goal of activating entrepreneurs. Ideas and businesses are born out of this event, folks. And exactly 1 year ago today, a guy named Nick Danziger started DigiPlus, a custom cell phone case business, as a direct result of participating in last year's Startup Crawl. Businesses get started with this event. Nick's been a guest right here on Bold Radio this year, and his business continues to grow. My guests in studio today are Luke Bohaneke. Sorry, Luke. He's an Asper grad and founder of the Startup Crawl. Welcome to the program today, Luke. And Mohammed is here as well. Mohammed Al-Maleki. He is with the Asper School of Business and president of the International Organization of CEO Manitoba. CEO stands for College Entrepreneurs Organization, a student organization dedicated to encouraging entrepreneur thinking. Mohammed, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And Scott McCauley is here. He's an entrepreneurship and finance instructor at Red River College. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Gentlemen, let's a little bit of background on the crawl. I remember hearing about it last year, but I think our listeners need to be refreshed. Tell us a little bit about this. It sounds like a pub crawl to me, but it's not. It's about entrepreneurship. Let's start with you, Luke.
Absolutely. You're right, John. Really, we were looking to create an event that really provided awareness and exposure for students interested in pursuing a career in entrepreneurship. It's unfortunate that when you're pursuing something like a sport, your parents are the ones giving you this exposure. When it comes to career opportunities, you rely on the classroom. For entrepreneurship, it's something where you need to experience it outside of the classroom. You need to get out there into the world and really see by engaging with industry partners. So really what we did is we created the Startup Crawl event, which we're dubbing a field trip for young entrepreneurs. Or really what we're doing in a one-day time frame, we're exposing young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to the people and the places that make entrepreneurship happen in our city, and also the people and the places that can serve as a resource to our own success.
You're trying to expose these students to entrepreneurship and what entrepreneurship can do. How did this year's event differ from last year's crawl? This is the second annual. Mohammed, why don't you give us that one?
Well, I think the biggest difference from this year to last year was the growth, obviously. The first year we only had one school bus. It was mostly students from the University of Manitoba at the Asper School of Business with some participants from Red River College. This year, fortunately, because of the help and support from a lot of our sponsors and friends at the Chamber, we grew to over 80 students from both the University of Manitoba, Red River College, and even St. Boniface University jumped on this year as well. So aside from the actual doubling in size from last year, we had a lot more excitement and participation from the business community and community at large in general.
Now, Scott McCauley is entrepreneurship and finance instructor at Red River. He's also co-founder of an organization called Permission Click. And Scott, Red River actively involved in this. This is something that you really support. Was this your first year involvement?
I was there from the beginning. I met Luke some time ago, and I introduced him to Ramp Up Manitoba group, and he was a great guy, and he said, hey, he has this abundant mentality, and he said, hey, we're all working on this together. The important thing is entrepreneurship, not where we're from. And he invited us very nice last year. 9 of the students came, and this year there's 27 of us, and it was great to be on board.
So 27 from Red River, the balance coming from University of Manitoba, I take it. Is this growing? Is this concept growing? Do you think that next year, rather than 80 students, you're going to get maybe 100, 120 students, Mohammed?
That's a goal, and I think that every year we're seeing a growth, and the excitement in the community has been absolutely incredible. And I think there's no reason why next year we shouldn't be adding 2 more buses and continuing that growth from then on.
What are your plans for next year? Are they going to change drastically, or are they going to go to different places? Or, can you give us some idea?
The biggest mission of CO Manitoba and the Startup Crawl in general is to promote 2 things: entrepreneurship and innovation in Winnipeg. And I think as long as and I'm very confident that we have a very competent group coming in next year as another executive for CO Manitoba. And again, there's no reason why this shouldn't continue growing. Startup Crawl is going to be only one of very many events that CO Manitoba will be hosting to promote entrepreneurship and innovation and giving students an opportunity outside the classroom to become entrepreneurs and hopefully be inspired as well.
Let's open this up to everybody here, and why don't we start first with Luke. Luke Bohaneke, Asper grad and founder of the Startup Crawl, one of the originators of it. Is entrepreneurship alive and well and growing in Winnipeg?
Absolutely, John, and I think that this event is an evident example of this. Really just to touch again on how the Startup Crawl concept it was founded through the community. It was myself, it was Scott McCauley of Red River College, it was other community leaders like Chris Johnson of Ramp Up Manitoba, Joelle Foster of the Canadian Youth Business Foundation, and other Asper students and executives. We all got together and said, how can we provide real value back to our students and not just throw another wine and cheese event, but to actually throw a true event that provides value to the members and really provides that awareness and exposure that really positions students for success and happiness. So to answer your question directly, yes, it's alive and well. We have a lot of work to do, though. This is just the starting point, and we are developing right now a concept that we believe is working great in Winnipeg, and our goal now is to roll the Startup Crawl concept out nationally so that other schools and students can benefit from the event that we created locally.
Interesting. Mohammed Al-Malaki, your perspective. Are we growing in entrepreneurship here in Winnipeg? Is it alive and well?
Listen, I think that, first of all, I want to say, why do we do Startup Crawl? Why did we decide to do Startup Crawl? And the biggest reason why we decided to do Startup Crawl, why we've invested so much time and energy behind it, is because I'm a firm believer that Winnipeg has some of the best entrepreneurially minded people in Canada and even the world. But what separates us, I think, from everybody else is that fear and ambiguity of the unknown. There's a lot of ambiguity when it comes to starting your own business. Where do you go to start your own business? How do you incorporate? Who do you go for money? You can't go to mom and dad all the time. And I think that through the Startup Crawl, what we've been so successful at doing is showing students and young people the resources that are available. There's so much resources available here in Winnipeg. And I think that because of the Startup Crawl, we're going to see more and more entrepreneurs alive and well in Winnipeg.
Thanks very much, Mohammed Al-Maleki. Scott, I got to take a break right now. Scott, we're going to come right back. I want to get your opinions. We're talking entrepreneurship today on Bold Radio. We're talking about the Startup Crawl, encouraging young entrepreneurs to experience and be exposed to what's happening in Winnipeg, how they can start their business, how they can incubate their business. We're talking about all those things. We're going to hear from a couple of students who actually were on the Startup Crawl, and we'll get their perspective as well when we come back. I'm John McLeese. Thanks for joining us this Saturday afternoon. Back after this on 680 CJOB. Welcome back to Bold Radio here on 680 CJOB. I'm John McLeese, joined in studio by Luke Bohaneke, a Asper grad and founder of Startup Crawl. Mohammed Al-Malaki is with Asper School of Business and the president of the international organization CEO Manitoba. And Scott McCauley is here. Scott is the co-founder of Permission Click, and he is the instructor of entrepreneurship and finance at Red River College. Gentlemen, welcome to the program, all of you. Scott, I wanted to get your perspective on entrepreneurship. You teach this at Red River. Are we alive and well? Is there a lot of people? Do a lot of people want to go out and work for somebody else, or do they want to start their own businesses?
We want them to start their own business. It's important. Every time you get an entrepreneur activated, they're starting to build business, and you build that innovative economy. And I think we really have a great understanding now that's very different. We've been teaching entrepreneurship at Red River College since the mid-'60s and the same program. And it's just in the last few years we really know how to do it well. The new thing that's come in from Silicon Valley is lean. We call it lean startup. And there really is some tools out there that you can see being used by young people. You mentioned Nick Denzinger at the start. I sit there across from him, and he was on the startup crawl last year, and he met all the right people, and he said, "I'm going to sit down and become an entrepreneur," and he did, and he had 18 ideas. We got it down to one, and he followed the playbook, and he got revenue positive, and he started out very simple. For a young person, you just can't shove that elephant in their mouth. And he got the business going, made one sale, right? Went to a farmer's market, and then found out about his customer.
Now, tell us a little bit about his product. He manufactures wireless device cases, custom-made?
Custom-made cell phone cases. And so the point of Nick was in ramp up, and because he saw a new technology called laser print cutting, he started doing custom laser cuts. Now, the point of the startup crawl is new processes, new technologies affords innovation. You show young people all these new technologies. They like, oh, he put that thing with that thing. And now Nick, it's his business now to get cash flow, but he's working on a whole bunch of things that are going to scale up and be, what we call a gazelle. And that's what we really want, building big businesses.
Before we continue, gentlemen, let's hear from a first-time crawler. Bold Radio was on the scene and had a chance to talk to one of the students that was on the first-time crawl.
My name's Heather McKenzie, and I'm a first-year business administration student at River College Princess Campus. This is my first time on the Startup Crawl, and so far it's been an amazing opportunity. It's really kind of opened up my mind to the network that young entrepreneurs can have to start up their own business, and the success and community that is right at our fingertips, basically. So it's been a great day.
It's been a great day for this entrepreneur. Now, this lady, her name is Heather McKenzie. She may be another Nick, potentially, after this.
She tracked me down early in the year, and she wanted to get involved in entrepreneurship. And she just has that fire, that energy. And she was just, at the end of the day, she's so excited, and she wants to join. We were emailing today. She wants to join CEO at U of M. She's a Red River student, and that's the representative, and we're working together.
I think that's wonderful. Gentlemen, I want to ask you this question, and I'll start with you, Mohammed, if we could. The premier of the province, the government of Manitoba, are trying to develop and grow businesses and make this a great province that will foster growth in entrepreneurship. What would you say to them as the future leaders? You gentlemen yourself, you're future leaders of this province, to be an entrepreneur. What do we need from our government of the day to help foster this, to become a center of excellence for entrepreneurship?
Well, first, I want to thank you for asking that question because it's so important. And if I could, if Premier Greg Selinger were to give me a call right now and ask me what would be the one thing I'd recommend for him, is I'm a firm believer that the best resource any nation, any province in Canada has, it's its people. And the best investment a nation can make is investment in its people. Because when you invest in your people, then the people invest in their nation. And I think that it's so incredibly important to invest in our entrepreneurs who are trying to make Manitoba a more innovative place to live and work. And I'm telling you, I've met so many young entrepreneurs in Manitoba and entrepreneurs in general, and we honestly do have some of the best, most passionate, hardworking entrepreneurs in the world, and we need to invest in them.
So I'm going to ask you, what kind of an example of investment? What are you looking for in that area?
Investing in something like Ramp Up Manitoba is step number one. Ramp Up Manitoba is where I think entrepreneurs are born. It's a place where you take a seat and you're surrounded by all these incredible innovators, and it rubs off on you. You can't help but create a business. My brother, who is not entrepreneurial at all, Aliel Maleki, he came on the Startup Crawl this year. He's applying to med. He's not into anything entrepreneurial at all. And he walked into Ramp Up Manitoba, and the first thing he tells me is, you know what, Mohammed, I think I just came up with an awesome business idea. Let me talk to you about it. And you know what? It's pretty good. So, and there's a lot of people like him as well.
Luke, you got 20 seconds to give us your opinion of what you would tell the Premier.
Absolutely, John. Well, Mohammed rocked the response. Really, we have organizations that are already out there trying to support local startups. And really, would say my perspective has it that that our province should support the organizations that are already supporting local startups. And this is financially, this is through a variety of resources, but there are groups out there that are doing this. And we're having great support, as seen in our recent event, partnering with National Leasing, partnering with the Chamber of Commerce. Work with these groups that are already giving back to the community to only further our efforts and to support us going forward.
We're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking specifically about the startup crawl that was just held by taking 80 university and college students across Winnipeg and showing them about great entrepreneur incubator organizations and where they can get support. We'll come back with more, and we've got a lot more ahead of us. Talk to another student as well and find out about their perceptions when we come back. On Bold Radio, I'm John McLeese. Thanks for joining us here on 680 CJOB. You can follow us on Twitter at the Winnipeg Chamber. That's the WPG Chamber. Tweet us your bold ideas using hashtag #BoldWinnipeg. Check out the Chamber's website, www.winnipeg-chamber.com. Everything you need to know about what's happening with the Chamber. And the most important thing to me is send us an email, bold, B-O-L-D, at winnipeg-chamber.com. Tell us about your bold ideas. Tell me about what you think of today's program and what kind of programs you'd like to hear on our area of bold leaders and bold innovation. A lot more to come, news, sports, and weather, and we are back for the next half hour on 680 CJOB. You're listening to Bold Radio on 680 CJOB. Thanks for joining us this Saturday afternoon. I'm John McLeese. We're talking about entrepreneurship with Luke Bohaneke. Is that correct, Luke?
You nailed it, John.
Oh, excellent. I feel so good about that. Asper grad and founder of the Startup Crawl, Mohammed Al-Malaki. How was that? Was that good?
That was perfect.
Oh, man, I feel good about that as well. Asper School of Business student and president of CEO Manitoba, and Scott Macaulay. Scott is the co-founder of Permission Click, and he is an instructor at Red River College in the area of entrepreneurship and finance. I'm going to start with you, Scott. I want to ask the same question we did before the news to the other two gentlemen. If you had the opportunity to speak to the Premier or the Mayor or some of our leaders with regards to what we need to do to set the table for entrepreneurial success and growth in our province and in our city, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, Richard Florida was hosted by the Chamber not too long ago, and he talked about this idea of creative clusters. Space is important, collisionability, serendipity, and in bumping into people and learning from each other. And entrepreneurship is a team sport. And, we get fed and provincial support. I've never seen the city anywhere in the alley. I've never seen them supporting innovation or entrepreneurship. And, other cities like Edmonton, the city is very involved with the fostering innovation entrepreneurship. And I'd love to see someone from the city actually give, what.
Okay, so what would that mean? To get where Edmonton is today, does that just mean more communication with kind of the civic leaders? Does it mean more support? Does it mean more money? I'm trying to get at what does better look like?
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it, but just show up to some things, help us out,
So be interested.
Yeah, could we get an Innovation Alley sign in exchange? I've been to a few meetings on that one, and it's not my job. Talk to someone else,
I hear you. So I got you. And something you'd like to add, Mohammed?
Yeah, if I may just jump in with what Scott was saying, it's something as simple as just showing up to our events and showing your support. I mean, this year we were so fortunate to have Minister Teresa Oswald coming in to Startup Crawl and speak, and it would have been so nice to see Sam Cater, other city council leaders as well, showing support for the innovation community, because we do have a lot of value to add to this city.
From your perspective, Luke, we might as well, let's go to you as well, too. Do you see that more support needs to be coming from our civic governments as well, too?
Yeah, absolutely, John. I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect in the space, and it's hard to tell if everybody gets what's going on. It seems like you have to be really plugged into the community to really see what's happening out there. People were saying how large our community is. We threw about 150 people in the Startup Crawl event into one room, and it was a very powerful room. But how do we expand from that room? How do we get a bigger room? So I think that's where we want to reach out to all the community leaders, not just the startup community, but the community by and large, and really just increase the awareness and exposure there so we can do something about this together.
How do you teach entrepreneurship? And Scott, I got to go back to you as an educator, as an instructor. You've been doing this, you had mentioned off air, for about 8 years now at Red River. How do you teach entrepreneurship to somebody that is wanting to kind of succeed and create a life?
Well, you're not going to teach entrepreneurship with a textbook. I tell you that. Entrepreneurs are activated, and the entrepreneurship is a verb and not a noun. And the nearest kind of synonym is execution. And so it's a doing thing. The entrepreneurs I know will say, yes, that's it. And so the idea is we're trying to produce courses where it's an activation, where we get them doing things and make one sale. Get moving, and then bring in the lean startup tools, which are, get in front of the customer. What do they like? Find out who is your customer, tall or short? Do they want red or blue? And, pivot, iterate, get validation, from business ideas. And we had a ramp up meeting last night, and we're talking a lot about this. So who says it's going to be successful? And so you got to remember, a startup is not a big company. A startup is a search for a viable business model, right? And every company has their own model. And so a startup entrepreneur is looking for that viable, that model that will be successful.
Excellent. Some excellent points. Anything you gentlemen would like to add? Let's go over to Luke, or you're good on that. Let's talk then about, want to swing it away to the whole notion of what are some of the biggest challenges to becoming an entrepreneur? What are some of the things that, so our audience kind of understand that those people that are out there, the startups, the young people that are trying to get an idea into someone's production and trying to sell someone an idea to start something up, what are some of the issues they face?
Throughout the year, the number one thing that I've heard from, a lot of students, and just from my own personal experiences, as I said earlier, the biggest problem with convincing entrepreneurs, young people to become entrepreneurs, is trying to get them over the fear of the ambiguity and the unknown, the risk that comes with being an entrepreneur. And if I could just mention what Jody Moscow said at our wine and cheese reception for the startup call, she said something so powerful that I think speaks volumes to what makes our entrepreneurship community in Winnipeg so unique compared to everyone else. Is she said, she challenged all of us young entrepreneurs, to take a risk and start something new. And she said, you know what? If you fail, you have a whole community behind you that will lift you up and get you back on your feet. And I think that speaks volumes to the unique quality of Winnipeg's entrepreneurship community and Winnipeg, and just Winnipeggers in general. What makes us so different is we cooperate with one another. We don't compete against one another. We have a vested interest in everybody's success in Winnipeg.
Is an entrepreneur driven by money? Or are they driven by the challenge? Some people are very monetarily driven, but some people are just in it for the hunt, and the money kind of comes. Give us a profile of the kind of what an entrepreneur is like that you've seen.
Yeah, so I love the Steve Jobs line. Entrepreneurs are in it to make a dent in the world, right? And I think entrepreneurs, there's type entrepreneurs that always will be entrepreneurs. I call them the 1%ers, but if we can activate more young people to become entrepreneurs, and I think we can do it now. We got the skills, the tools to do it, and we have the infrastructure that we saw on the startup bus crawl. Every time you activate an entrepreneur, you're building out an innovative economy, and so that's really our goal. Is let's get more young people into the entrepreneurial world. Let's build a more entrepreneurial ecosystem and have a more innovative and entrepreneurial economy.
Here's another perspective from a third-year Asper student on the startup bus crawl.
Hi, my name is Travis Drager. I'm a third-year Asper student, double majoring in entrepreneurship and international business. It's my second year on the startup crawl, and this year was fascinating. We saw a lot of improvement. AscentWorks was really cool. They've added a lot of machinery there, millions of dollars, open for anybody to use, and overall, this day was truly inspirational for everyone.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. More on entrepreneurship on Bold Radio. I'm John McLeese. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back here on 680 CJOB. Welcome back to Bold Radio here on 680 CJOB. I'm John McLeese. Luke Bohaneke joins me from the Asper School of Business and founder of a startup bus crawl we've been talking about here. Sounds like a great concept, actually. Mohammed Al-Malaki is here as well. He represents the CEO Manitoba, the international organization, Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, and Scott Macaulay is here. Scott is the instructor of entrepreneurship and finance at Red River College. He's also a co-founder of a company called Permission Click. If we have time, I'd love to find out what that's about. But gentlemen, there's just so much to talk about. Luke, I want to go to you first because you talked about things that entrepreneurs need. And during the break, you mentioned something that I think we have to get out to talk a little bit about it. That if you're an entrepreneur, sometimes this is very hard to find.
Absolutely. You know, it's constantly talked about, but we need capital. That's really what it comes down to.
You need money. You need startup money.
You said it. And it's not the $1 million check. It's not the $10 million check. It's not the $100 million check if you watch too much TechCrunch, if you're like me. But it's that $25,000 check, that $50,000 check that really gets you through as a startup company. I've started my own company. I'm working for a technology startup now, and this is the problem here. And now, you know, it's great, though, that we're working with groups like CYBF, who's got low-cost debt financing options. Eureka Project just announced a $1 million fund where they're funding startups in $25,000 increments. These are all steps in the right direction, but we want to see more support from the business community because, realistically, if we don't get the cash here, we get it elsewhere. So it's a good opportunity locally to see more leaders jump on board.
I was watching Dragon's Den last night, and it's a great show, in a lot of respects. And certainly a lot of people don't get what they need, in terms of funding, etc. But some of those businesses, they're funded not a lot by some of the dragons, and they're quite successful. Those kinds of shows really help and support entrepreneurship and help people that are thinking about great ideas to, kind of move forward.
Right. If I may just add one thing based on what Luke was saying about the need for capital for young entrepreneurs here in Manitoba, I think one of the worst things that I've seen, one of the saddest things I've noticed this year is because there isn't that much money for young entrepreneurs to take advantage of in Winnipeg, we often lose some of our greatest young entrepreneurs. For instance, the Joist app students, former Asper grads, started this incredible app, and we lost them to Toronto because there's no money here for them to grow. And that's a lot of jobs and innovation and a lot of pride that we just lost because we didn't invest in that. We didn't invest in the innovation that they're providing here in Winnipeg.
That really opens up to another great question. We have a very strong business community here. We have a very, very strong business community. That's why you're here on the program. This is a Winnipeg Chamber-sponsored program. The business community really supports you in a lot of your endeavors. What can business do to help entrepreneurs?
It's been great that David Angus and the Chambers really recognized Innovation Alley and the bold idea of Innovation Alley and the Creative Campus as well, and really support us as a community. But that we can take that beyond, go even further. This entrepreneurship is based on this idea of community where everyone's a mensch. Everyone works on karma, and you give back more than you receive. National Leasing, has been very generous to River College, and we're a premier sponsor on the bus crawl. But their president Tom Pundick, busy guy, but if I have some entrepreneurs who need to connect with them, he has time to do that, and no problem. And I've seen that again and again in the Winnipeg business community, that the support for the entrepreneurs, especially the young entrepreneurs.
Is mentorship important? You talk about the business leader here at National Leasing, giving of his time. Is having a mentor, somebody that you can call that has some experience that can help you through some of the various phases of taking something to market, is that important? Absolutely
important. You learn their mistakes, right? And go back to Nick again. He's got a lot of great mentorship from the whole community. And we're at a ramp-up meetup, and a young guy from Africa came up and said, I want to get into this. And it was a busy day for me, and I said, hey, Nick, guess what? You're now the mentor for, someone, Nick. And it's passed along, right? Nick is, and you see that again. It's, and the idea is you receive the mentorship, and then you pass it along.
So that's very important. Mohammed, you would like something to add?
Yeah, and I think it all goes back to giving back to your community and giving back to the new generation. And I think what I really love about being in the Asper community is the Asper School of Business not only gives us the educational tools that we need to succeed as entrepreneurs and people in general, but it also gives us the opportunities to interact with business leaders, to host events like Startup Crawl. It supports us in so many different ways, and we kind of feel obligated to give back from then on.
Any final comments, Luke? You would like to, Luke Bohaneke, you would like to address with the group here?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think it goes back to awareness and exposure, and really, I think awareness and exposure, it's a recipe for success. And I think that if you were to create that recipe for success, I truly feel that Startup Crawl and events and opportunities like this available for students would be part of that recipe. So we need to do more of this. We need to do more of this locally, and we should be doing this throughout the country.
Let's just go around the room here for some final comments here before we have to wrap up. Let's go to Scott McCauley.
We had a really big ramp-up meetup. That's where we, pitch ideas and that. And I saw a lot of people from the Startup Crawl now come to ramp up pitching ideas and really talking about going into an entrepreneurial lifestyle. And so you see that coming through.
They've got some place now that's safe and a place that they can talk to. Talk to people.
Get mentorship.
Mentorship. So you've created a network for them. Well done, Mohammed.
The final thing that I want to say to wrap this up is during my final speech at the Startup Crawl, I made everybody raise a glass and vow that as Winnipeggers, we're no longer going to be boring, we're going to be innovative. Because in life, you can either choose to be innovative or you can be boring. And I don't think Winnipeggers are naturally boring people. We are some of the most innovative people, and we should continue being so.
So innovative. Let's go, Luke. I'll give you one final comment, if you would. Anything you would like to say in terms of next year's crawl, or what you'd like to see. If I was a year out, what would I hope to see in this whole area of entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. I think we need to do three things, and that's in all of our events, activities, and everything to provide value to the youth. We need to educate and inform. We need to connect, and we need to inspire. And if we can continue doing these three things throughout all of our opportunities available to our youth, we're going to have a bright future.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time here today and for what you've been done on Startup Crawl. This is great for the city of Winnipeg. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for
having us.
Back to wrap up after this. My thanks to my guests, Luke Bohaneke, Mohammed Al-Malaki, Scott McCauley. You can visit the Chamber's website at www.winnipeg-chamber.com. Send us an email, bold, B-O-L-D, at winnipeg-chamber.com. Tell us what you thought about today's show and give me some ideas for future shows. I'd love to hear from them. You can follow us on Twitter at the WPG Chamber, at the Winnipeg Chamber. And let us know your bold ideas by using the Twitter hashtag BoldWinnipeg. I'm John McLeese. Stay tuned for news, sports, weather coming up next at 1 p.m. And we are back next Saturday at high noon with more bold ideas from bold leaders right here on Bold Radio on 680 CG.